Today's lesson is on converting units of measure. After today, you will be able to compare two different proportional relationships represented in different ways. First, we're going to look at our key idea and vocabulary. To convert between customary and metric units, multiply by one or more conversion factors. A conversion factor is a rate that equals 1. An example of a conversion factor would be 1 meter is approximately 3.28 feet. For our first example, we're converting between systems. We want to convert 20 centimeters to inches. For our first method, we're going to use a conversion factor. The conversion factor for centimeters and inches is 1 inch is approximately 2.54 centimeters. To set this problem up, we have 20 centimeters, and you can write that over 1 if that helps to make it a fraction, and we're going to multiply it by our conversion factor. Since centimeters is on the top of the first one, we need it on the bottom of the second one so that we can cancel it out. So we're going to put 1 inch on top and 2.54 centimeters on the bottom. Now when we are solving this, we can use a calculator to help us. We're going to do 20 times 1, which is 20, and on the bottom we have 1 times 2.54, which is 2.54. So now we have to do 20 divided by 2.54, and when we use our calculator we're going to get 7.87 inches. So 20 centimeters is about 7.87 inches. For our second method, we can use a proportion. Let x be the number of inches equivalent to 20 centimeters. For this one, we'll write our conversion factor, 1 inch over 2.54 centimeters, and this is approximately equal to x over 20. X stands for inches, so it's x inches, so that's what we're going to put on the top. Inches on the top of both, and centimeters is on the bottom of both. Now we can multiply each side by 20. When we do that, the 20 will cancel out on the right hand side. So we're left with x equals, and on the left hand side we have 20 times 1, which is 20, and then divided by 2.54. Again, we can use our calculator and we get approximately 7.87. So 20 centimeters is about 7.87 inches, or 7 87/100 inches. Now we're going to look at our additional example for number 1. We're going to complete the statement. For these problems, you can use a calculator. You can pause the video and try them on your own, or you may follow along. Our conversion factor for these problems is 1 quart is approximately 0.95 liters. The first method was using a conversion factor. So we're going to have 10 quarts is approximately blank liters. For this problem, we're going to write out 10 quarts, and we're going to multiply it by our conversion factor. Remember, you can put a 1 under 10 quarts to make it a fraction. And when we're writing our conversion factor, since quarts is on the top of the first one, it needs to be on the bottom of the second one. The number that matches up with quarts is a 1, and then we'll write liters on the top, 0.95 liters. The quarts will cancel out, and so all we'll be left with is liters. To solve this, we'll multiply 10 times 0.95, and on the bottom we'll multiply 1 times 1. 1 times 1 is just 1, so we don't have to worry about the bottom. And then we can use our calculator to do 10 times 0.95, and we're going to get 9.5 liters. For our second method, we're going to use a proportion. We still have the same problem, 10 quarts is about blank liters. For our proportion, we're going to use our conversion factor, and we're going to put 0.95 liters over 1 quart, and that's approximately equal to x over 10 quarts. When we're doing a proportion, we need to have the labels the same on the top and the labels the same on the bottom. So on the top of this one we have liters, and on the bottom we have quarts. Now we can multiply each side by 10. On the right hand side, that will cancel out, so we're just going to be left with x. And on the left hand side we'll do 10 times 0.95, and that'll be over 1, which equals 9.5 liters, or 9 5/10 liters. For our second example, we're converting a rate, and we're changing 1 unit. Convert the pumping rate of the human heart to liters per minute. The problem tells us by the picture that it would pump 5 quarts of blood per minute. So we're going to start with that. 5 quarts over 1 minute, because it's 5 quarts per minute. We want to change to liters per minute. In the problem we have minutes and we're changing to minutes, so we actually aren't changing that part. The part we are changing is quarts to liters. So when we set our problem up, we have 5 quarts over 1 minute, and we're going to multiply by our conversion factor. 1 quart is approximately 0.95 liters. Quarts is on the top of the first one, so it needs to be on the bottom of the second one because we are multiplying. And then that would mean that liters would be on the top, so 0.95 liters over 1 quart. Quarts will cancel. We can use our calculator then to multiply 5 times 0.95 for the top, and we get 4.75 liters. On the bottom, we're going to multiply 1 times 1, which is 1, and we're still left with minutes. So the rate of 5 quarts per minute is about 4.75 liters per minute. Now we're going to look at our additional example for number 2. You can use a calculator. Remember, you can pause the video and try it on your own, or you can follow along. An oil tanker is leaking oil at a rate of 300 gallons per minute. Convert this rate to gallons per second. Notice that gallons is staying the same, so what we're changing is from minutes to seconds. So we'll start with what we know in our problem. We have 300 gallons per minute, so 300 gallons over 1 minute. Then we're going to multiply it by our conversion factor. We want to change minutes to seconds. Minutes is on the bottom, so I would need it on the top of the second fraction to cancel out. 1 minute is equal to 60 seconds. So I have 1 minute over 60 seconds. Now when I multiply this out, I'm going to have 300 gallons on top and 60 seconds on the bottom, because 300 times 1 is 300 and 1 times 60 is 60. Now I can divide 300 by 60, and I will get 5, and then my label would be gallons per second. For the third example, we're converting a rate, but we're changing both units this time. Convert the speed of the zipliner to feet per second. It tells us in the problem that the zipliner is 15 miles per hour. We have miles per hour, and we're changing to feet per second. So this time we're changing miles to feet and hours to seconds. So we're going to start with what we know. We know 15 miles per hour, so 15 miles over 1 hour. First we can change miles. We're changing miles to feet. So our conversion factor is 1 mile is approximately 5,280 feet. Miles is on the top of the first one, so it needs to be on the bottom of the second one because we are multiplying. So we'll put 1 mile on the bottom and then 5,280 feet on the top. Miles will cancel out on this one, so now we're just left with feet. We aren't done yet though, because we need to change hours to seconds. Hours is on the bottom, so when I write my conversion factor, I need hours on the top so that it can cancel out. 1 hour is equal to 3,600 seconds. So I'll put 1 hour on the top of the fraction and 3,600 seconds on the bottom. Notice that on the top all I have left is feet, and on the bottom all I have left is seconds. So my answer will be in feet per second. Now I can use my calculator because I'm going to multiply 15 times 5,280 on the top times 1, and then on the bottom I have 1 times 3,600. So that's going to give me, when I multiply on the top, 79,200, and that would be feet, and on the bottom I have 3,600 seconds. Now I can divide. When I divide that, I get 22 feet per second. So the speed of the zipliner is 22 feet per second. Now we have an additional example. You can use your calculator on this example. You can pause the video and try it on your own, or you may follow along. A tennis ball travels at a speed of 120 miles per hour. Convert this rate to feet per second. So on this problem, we have 120 miles per hour. So I'm going to write 120 miles over 1 hour. I am converting miles to feet and hours to seconds. So I'm converting two things. So first I can look at miles to feet. 1 mile is 5,280 feet. Since miles is on the top of the first fraction, I need to put it on the bottom of the second, so it will cancel out. So I'll put 1 mile on the bottom and 5,280 feet on the top. Next, I need to change 1 hour to seconds. 1 hour is on the bottom to start with, so it needs to be on the top of the last fraction here. So I'll put 1 hour on the top, and the conversion would be then 3,600 seconds on the bottom. All I've left on the top is feet, and the bottom seconds. Now I'll use my calculator to help me multiply. I'll be multiplying 120 times 5,280 times 1 for the top, and 1 times 3,600 for the bottom. When I multiply that, I'm going to get 633,600 feet over 3,600 seconds. Now I can use my calculator again to divide, and I will get 176 feet per second. Now we're going to look at another key idea, converting units for area or volume. To convert units for area, multiply the area by the square of the conversion factor. To convert units for volume, multiply the volume by the cube of the conversion factor. For example 4, we're converting units for area. The painting Fracture by Benedict Gibson has an area of 2,880 square inches. What is the area of the painting in square feet? So in the problem, I have square inches and I want square feet. My conversion factor is 1 foot equals 12 inches. I want square feet, so I have to square the conversion factor. So I'm going to do the conversion factor raised to the power of 2. It's squared. When I square the conversion factor, I do 1 times 1 for the numerator, and 1 times 1 is 1, so I get 1 on the top, and then I do 12 times 12 for the bottom. 12 times 12 is 144. So I have 1 square foot on the top and 144 square inches on the bottom. So now when I set this up, I have 2,880 square inches times 1 square foot over 144 square inches. Square inches will then cancel out because I have 1 on the top and 1 on the bottom, so I'm left with square feet. I will multiply 2,880 times 1, and that'll be over 144. I'll use my calculator to help me now divide, and when I divide that out, I get 20 square feet. So the area of the painting is 20 square feet. Now for my additional example, you can use a calculator, and you can pause the video and try it on your own, or you may follow along. An acre has an area of 4,840 square yards. What is the area of the acre in square feet? My conversion factor I need is 1 yard is equal to 3 feet. So when I set this up, I have 4,840 square yards, and I'm multiplying that by 3 feet over 1 yard, which that whole conversion is squared. When I square my conversion, I'm doing 3 squared, which is 9, so I have 9 square feet on the top, and 1 squared, which is 1, so 1 square yard on the bottom. Square yards will then cancel out, because I have 1 on top and 1 on bottom. And now to solve, I do 4,840 times 9, and that will then be over 1. My label I've left is square feet. So when I multiply, I get 43,560 square feet. For my fifth example, I'm converting units for volume. What is the volume of the cylinder in cubic centimeters? So first I look at the cylinder and see the volume is 80 cubic meters. I'm converting cubic meters to cubic centimeters. My conversion factor is 1 meter is equal to 100 centimeters. Since I need to do volume, I'm going to cube my conversion factor. This means that for the top I'll do 100 times 100 times 100, and on the bottom I will do 1 times 1 times 1. So for my problem I have 80 cubic meters, and that is multiplied by my conversion factor, which is 1 million cubic centimeters over 1 cubic meter. Cubic meters cancels out because I have one on top and one on bottom. So then I'm going to multiply 80 times 1 million, and that would be 80 million cubic centimeters. So the volume is 80 million cubic centimeters. Now I have an additional example. You can use a calculator for the example. Remember, you can pause the video and try it on your own, or you may follow along. The volume of a cube is 216 cubic feet. What is the volume of the cube in cubic yards? Our conversion factor is 1 yard is equal to 3 feet. So when I set this problem up, I have 216 cubic feet times my conversion factor, which was 1 yard over 3 feet. I need cubic yards and cubic feet, so I need to cube my conversion factor. This means I would do 1 times 1 times 1 for the numerator or the top, and 3 times 3 times 3 for the bottom. This will then give me 216 cubic feet times 1 cubic yard over 27 cubic feet. Now my cubic feet will cancel out because one's on top and one's on bottom. So I'm left with cubic yards, and then I can multiply. I have 216 times 1, which is 216, and that would then be over 27. And when I divide 216 by 27, I get 8 cubic yards. Don't forget to fill out your notes. We're not doing a whisk form now, we are doing notes, and watch the video again if needed.